Hi everybody, Michelle McClunan, astrologer and life navigator, and I'm bringing you an astrology update for the next new moon, which is happening on the 23rd of August in the fertile, beautiful sign of Virgo. It's very interesting, this one, because this is the first of two new moons in Virgo, which is something that doesn't happen very often. And so it's kind of a double reset, a double realignment, a double refining, a double clearing. So I'm going to try and unpack that for you as we move through the different elements in this new moon. So this is really the start of a full cycle. It's going to take us a whole month because we've got the new moon on the 23rd, then we'll have a full moon, lunar eclipse on the 7th of September, and then another new moon on the 21st of September, which is going to be a solar eclipse. So we're actually going to be entering into eclipse season. So this is a very, very, very powerful month astrologically, energetically. So stay tuned and I'll lead you through it. The energy of this new moon is very complex and very multidimensional. It is, if you just look at the one element of it, which is Virgo, which is where we have the sun and the moon. Obviously, where the sun and the moon are together, that's a new moon. And then 2 weeks later, they're opposite each other. The sun's opposite the moon. That's a full moon. And then this time, they come back together again in Virgo. So this one is at 0 degrees of Virgo. The one on the 21st of September is going to be at the very, very end of Virgo. So it's a very strong cycle that actually takes us through the eclipse season in the next month from this new moon. You might already be feeling it, okay? So if we look at Virgo, what is Virgo? Virgo is what we call mutable earth. And it often gets a bad rap because Virgos are often kind of chaos averse. They like to bring order in. They can be quite analytical. They can be quite perfectionistic. That's some of the energy of Virgo. But when you really drill down into the energy of the sign, astrology is the study of energy. Okay, so the more we can understand the energy of a sign, the more we can understand what's going on with the new moon or full moon, transits to your natal chart or whatever it is to actually try and sort of sort out what is the energy of Virgo. Virgo is mutable earth. Mutable meaning changeable, adaptable, versatile, which is quite interesting if you look at earth because earth is considered to be solid and grounded and not moving anywhere. But mutable earth is really that earth that gets tended and changed. And so it refers to crops and sowing and reaping and cycles. And so it brings another whole layer of understanding to Virgo because Virgo is really about discerning, separating the wheat from the chaff, finding out what needs to be refined, what needs to be cleared, what needs to be realigned in order to actually facilitate new growth. That's actually a lot of what Virgo stands for. As a sign, it's known as the Virgin Goddess. It's often known as the Earth Goddess, the one who is particularly concerned with purity, with fertility, and with the cycles of life, with the coming and going, the ups and downs, the dark and light, the summer and the winter, the seasons. Now, this new moon is very interesting because along with this new moon and then the solar eclipse, which is in a month's time, the solar eclipse is going to be followed directly after the next day with the equinox. In the southern hemisphere, it's the spring equinox, which is a time for cleansing and clearing and weeding and preparing the ground for new growth, for spring. In the northern hemisphere, it's a sign of harvest as the northern hemisphere prepares to go into autumn and then winter. So they're different cycles, but Virgo as a sign honors the cycles and honors the seasons. So it's quite a good time for us to ask ourselves at this new moon, bearing in mind that we're going to have two opportunities to do this, what season are we in? And you might find if you do that exercise that you'll find that different parts of your life are in different seasons. So you might feel very sort of wintry in one season of your life, but in another season you might feel something new wanting to spring out, wanting to be reborn. So it's quite an interesting little journaling exercise. What season of my life is my relationship with my body, my home, my work, the service that I do in the world. That's a very Virgo theme. So other themes associated with Virgo are devotion, service, sacred service, health, the mind, body, soul connection, healing, bringing order to chaos, finding a way to realign with what is real and right for us. That's the realign part, the refine part. It's definitely a sign that's related to refining and separating. I don't need that, I do need that. So these two new moons have a very strong message that it's time to really look at life as a sacred garden. What do we compost? What do we keep? What do we plant? What do we clear? It's that time of the year. And even more so because of what it's touching. So whenever I do a reading, I try to see the different elements of it, because nothing stays on its own in the sky, much like our body. Everything's connected to something. So if you look at this new moon, the new moon is exactly square to a planet called Uranus. So this is quite big because Virgo wants order and Uranus can feel quite chaotic. Uranus, the energy of Uranus is the disruptor. I've often referred to it before, it's like a lightning strike that strikes the earth, breaks it open, and says, right, things have to change. You might be feeling that already because the sun is already moving into that square with Uranus. So it's quite a disruptive energy to this new moon. It is also, though, a liberating energy. And this is going to be the theme right through the eclipse season. So it's that we can actually work with it is the best thing. Not to resist the change, not to resist the liberation, not to resist even the challenges of life, but to see how we can actually process them and deal with them in a different way. That's really what this is all about. And obviously this is about a shift in consciousness, which I refer to all the time, which is what we're all experiencing, and that can be quite challenging at times for the human. I get that. But this Uranus square to the moon can result in sudden shifts, sudden insights, sudden breakthroughs, sudden surprises. I wouldn't be at all surprised if we have major developments on the political scene, because the charts of Russia, the charts of Ukraine, Trump, Putin, all those charts are actually under the influence of this next month in terms of the movements of the planet. So it's going to be quite interesting to watch that space and see what comes and what reveals itself over the next month or two. So the way we can actually look at this new moon is that it's an opportunity with Uranus in the square to it to break through old rigid patterns. And that really is what awakening is. It's to see the pattern and then to take responsibility to actually shift that pattern. And that requires self-reflection. It absolutely does. And it's not something that everybody is keen to do. But if you don't do it, then you get stuck in the same old rut, like that same old rut. Neurologically, it's a rut. Physically, it's a rut. It's the same thoughts creating the same reality over and over again. And that's what's creating this tension. So if you're feeling like that and you're feeling a bit irritated by the same old thing, then it's time to shift something and to work on what is that needs to be shifted. You know, how am I involved in perpetuating the same thing that keeps on happening? What are the words that I use over and over again? What are the stories I tell over and over again? And that could be ancestral stories that you've absorbed, which are now ready to be released because they're not serving you anymore. They're not aligned with your vibration. And when something's not aligned with your vibration, it'll first of all feel really horrible and irritating and possibly even quite traumatic. Your soul wants you to release that story or release that pattern. And that's part of the healing process. So I see this new moon as a very, very strong potential for healing and realigning. And not only this new moon, but the one at the end of the month as well, because it's a whole cycle. And in the middle of that, we've got the full moon, which is going to be in the sign of Pisces, which is about release, and it's about connecting to something higher, bigger, more important than just the physical realm. It's taking us to another level of our consciousness. That's what this whole thing is actually working with. So a little bit more about the astrology. This new moon is not only in a square to Uranus, which obviously is doing everything that I've just been telling you. It's also in what we call a quincunx, which is, I know lots of astrology, but it's actually in an aspect to two different points. The one is to Neptune and Saturn in Aries, which I've spoken a lot about because they are two outer planets which are changing signs, and they're in the middle of that. So they're not quite finished with their journey yet. They're going backwards and forwards until February next year. So that's the one aspect to the new moon. The other one is the aspect to Pluto. So that brings in something called, it's a pattern called the finger of God or the finger of fate. It's actually known as a yod. And a yod in an astrology chart, any astrology chart, a chart of the moment like this, a birth chart, a business chart, whenever there's a yod, the corner, the point of the yod, which in this case is the sun and the moon, is where that's what's pointing us to what needs to actually be focused on. It's the focal point to actually release the tension of the yod. So it kind of, there's a tension formed, which then pushes us into one of the sides of this pattern. And that says, okay, what needs to be looked at? So once again, the point of the yod is in Virgo, sun and the moon in Virgo. So in order to transform, which is Pluto on the one side, in order to build new structures, in order to connect to ourselves on a deeper level, we need to take care of our inner garden, of our sacred garden. We need to take care of our health, the mind-body-soul connection. What is not resonating with me anymore that used to? What needs to be cleared? So this is very clear, especially with this yod, of where the focus is. I mean, it's not just the sun and the moon, that the sun and the moon are actually in that point, a very, very strong point, I might add, because it's at 0 degrees of a sign. At 0 degrees of a sign is always the most potent degree of a sign. And if you look at Saturn and Neptune and Pluto, they're all also very, very close to the beginning of the signs, which is meaning, and we've spoken about this often, that this is the ending of cycles and the beginning of new cycles. Just a refresher, Saturn has been in the sign of Pisces for the last 29 years or so. Neptune has been in the sign of Pisces for the last 165 years, and both of those are changing signs. So right now they're at the very, very beginning of Aries, so they've changed into Aries, and they're going backwards into Pisces, and then they're coming back into Aries again next year and coming together in February for the first time in a very, very long time. So that depicts some kind of a new push forward, a new start, a new way of being in some cases for many of us. So I think that's all coming, but we're still in this process of the old and the new, the cycles. So it's really to honor the cycles as opposed to resisting the cycles. Can we honor the seasons that we find ourselves in? Can we honor if we're in the winter? Can we honor the autumn? Can we honor the fact that the leaves are falling off the tree? The leaves are getting older. They're not green and perky like they used to be. Can we honor that something else might want to be arising, that we can actually plant new seeds for some new growth in a particular area of our charts? So this new moon will usually show us where this new beginning is and where we really need to tend that sacred garden. It'll be in a particular house in your chart, and the houses are areas in life. So this new moon might be sitting in your house of career, which means that's the garden that needs to get tended. It could be in the house of relationship. It could be in the house of your own well-being, your own health. It could be in the house of your spiritual growth. It really depends on your personal chart. But as a sort of a comprehensive reading for all of us, as a collective reading, we're looking at clearing. We're looking at realigning. We're looking at resetting, redefining, clearing space. If you have anywhere in your home that's mucky and messy and full of stuff, clear it. It's a very good month for detoxing. The house, the body, the thoughts, clearing. Just see it as an opportunity to clear space so something else can arise. And to look really closely and carefully at our own patterns, at how we are perpetuating cycles and how we are in control of how we respond to things. We can't control the world out there. The world out there is always going to be ups and downs. There's always going to be things that happen that aren't pleasant and things that happen that are pleasant. There are always going to be challenges. This is a planet of polarity, of dark and light. We can't get away from that. But we can choose how we see it. We can choose to be in resistance to everything that happens and to feel like we're victims, in which case we lose our power. So that's a choice. We can do that. Or we can choose to see the gift in it. We can choose to see, okay, this is another opportunity to grow, to strengthen my inner being, because that's all that really matters. The outer being is going to disappear at some point, but the inner being is going with you. So that's what we get to clear over and over again. It's not a one-time thing. And to come back to who we really, really are on the inside. And that is this massive, massive, massive shifting consciousness. On that subject, just a reminder that John and I, my partner and I, have a retreat in Hogsback, which is a magical place in the mountains in South Africa. It is absolutely incredibly powerful as a transformational port. And that's going to be happening on that weekend of equinox. Healing, resetting, realigning, clearing, transforming. It's very powerful. So if you'd like to join us there, we still have some space. We're going to have a beautiful group, and it's a very powerful place. It'll be our last retreat of the year. So join us there if you can. The information is down below, journeysofawakening.com, and you're very welcome to just email us and ask us any questions that you might have in that regard. I'm also available for readings. I've got a little bit of a delay, but if you message me, also my details are below. We can set up a reading to see really how these very big patterns are playing out. And it gives us guidance, It gives us some kind of a map, some kind of a compass in terms of what we need to work with in this life, because we kind of don't have a map book. So a birth chart is a little bit of a map book, and it does help to actually help us, redirect us, and direct us on our course. Because we're on course, we're here, we're showing up, we're on our journey. And I'm going to repeat something that we said last night on our Facebook Live. What if there are no mistakes? What if you're supposed to be right here, right now, exactly where you are? If you just make that slight perceptual shift, you might feel some liberation and some relief in that as well. Virgo, the energy of Virgo can be quite critical, quite judgmental, and quite perfectionistic. So just be aware of that, because what we're doing is we are letting go of rigidity and that sense of perfectionism. If I can't do it perfectly, then I'm not going to do it, which paralyzes us. And we're opening more to softening into what we need to do and what's unfolding next. So we're actually loosening the reins of control and actually moving into alignment with the unfolding of this very mysterious, very unpredictable life that we find ourselves in, which is exquisite and difficult all at the same time. But it depends on the lens through which we're looking at it through. So these are very powerful times that we get to live through. So the questions that I was going to ask you before I pulled the card which I will still ask, and then I'm going to read the card because the card is amazing. It fell out of the pack, the Sacred Horse card. The questions that I was going to say would be helpful to ask at new moon. New moon's always a time to go within, meditate more, spend more time in nature. See if you can just take 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening to just be. No phone, no music, no reading, just sitting. And if you don't do that often, you might find that it's quite uncomfortable because our minds are so busy with all the input and the output that we don't ever get to integrate anymore very often. So I would say that's probably the most important thing. The other part of a new moon in Virgo, remember these two, is to set sacred routines. And that's why I'm suggesting the 15 minutes, the process of before you go to sleep at night, just running your awareness through your day to see where you showed up, where you didn't show up, no judgment, and what you'd like to redo, realign with. It's a good practice. What you're grateful for when you wake up in the morning. Those kinds of sacred routines bring us back into harmony with Mother Earth, with our own body, with our own mind, with our spirit. And this is the time to do it because we are strengthening our taproots in this sacred garden of ours so that we can deal with and process and handle any kind of change that comes at us, which it is, at a rate of knots. Change is coming, whether we like it or not. So how best to cope with it? We best cope with it by being able to actually access our inner power at any moment, especially when things get wild. So when things aren't wild, that's the time to practice. That's the time to push our roots down even further into something that is more lasting than just the changing events around us. So that's what I see this whole big cycle as. So what sacred routines can we put in place now? How can we refine our relationship with our bodies, our minds, our spirits? Do we need to be eating differently? Do we need to be exercising more or less? Do we need to be sleeping more? Do we need to be resting more? I don't think that we acknowledge rest enough. A lot of us will see rest as a time when you're just scrolling through the internet. That's not really rest because you're inputting information. Whereas rest is no input, no output. It's just resting and allowing everything to settle. If you've ever done a yoga session, you go in at the very end of the physical yoga session, you go into something called shavasana, which is where you just lie there still and you allow the body and the mind and the spirit to actually unify and to settle and for it to integrate into your being. So that's what we need to do more of over the next while, I would say. And then the other question I was going to say is, what outdated habits, roles, thought patterns do we need to let go of? What are the same stories that we've been telling ourselves for how many years? And are they serving us? And if they're not, then maybe it's time to change them. And I think Uranus is helping us with that. The disruptor is helping us to see that. And Saturn and Neptune and Pluto, all of them, they're all saying, okay, what's underneath the surface? Come, have a look, have a look. And that's the empowering part of this because we have the potential to transform if we so choose. So the card that I drew, Dark Angel, it is from the Sacred Horse pack. As I said, the Oracle of the Sacred Horse, and it literally fell out the pack. And it's so apt, it's unbelievable. So swift change is coming, Uranus. Disruption, cleansing, and awakening. I mean, you can't make this up, really. Majestic and striking, Dark Angel emerges out of darkness, carried by his massive wingspan. Subtle hues of purple, lavender, pink, and gold shimmer through his sleek and shiny coat. His long flowing mane sparkles with orbs of gold. Dark Angel travels far amongst the constellations of the heavens to those who require his services. He comes to you now. Prepare for the energy that he brings to your life. Dark angels are bold, fierce in their commitments, and can disrupt the current state of affairs. They mean no harm. In essence, they're here to do the dirty work, to cleanse away any energetic corruption at a deep level. Benevolent by nature, Dark Angel seeks to clear anything from your life that no longer serves you, is covert or harmful to you or to others. Dark Angel brings light to unfair and unjust intentions or behaviors. His power and presence can sometimes overwhelm the tender-hearted, but his intention is only to right the wrongs and bring back justice. Dark Angel may come to you at night. You may receive insight or warnings in your dreams about the direction you're headed towards. Do not fear these messages, as they are here to guide you. Dark Angel asks that you bravely review your path and life. You may have unconsciously fallen into detrimental habits that could lead you away from your authentic self. You may even experience self-loathing. You are not here to live this way. You have arrived here to understand the shadow nature of the human ego and how selfishness, pride, arrogance, and greed can destroy the spirit, relationships, and communities. You may feel that pieces of your life have fallen apart or no longer make sense. I know a lot of people who are experiencing just this. You may have experienced the dread of taking the wrong path or feeling like you've taken the wrong path, relationship or job. You may be questioning the values you live by and fear that you've lost your way. It's time to shake things up. Self-examine, eradicate the thorns, and awaken your highest vibration. Mount Dark Angel and fly with him. Ask him for assistance, and he will surely and swiftly help you to see and release the darkness that does not serve you. That does happen when we ask, and when we're prepared to hear the answer. He comes with quickness, urging you to seize the moment without hesitation. You are supported in this great clearing. Embrace it and fly on. Now I'll read the questions too. Where have you allowed yourself to be led astray? When do you engage with activities, peoples, habits that may intentionally or unconsciously hurt yourself or others? Are there areas of your life that feel unaligned with who you are? Has your ego become caught up in society's definitions of success? And how can you bring more integrity to your life? How can you bring more alignment, where you're in alignment with your truth, with your essence? So that's a very powerful message, and it is perfect for this new moon. I'd love to hear your comments about this new moon, about the energy, about whether you relate to this, whether it resonates with you. I love to read your comments. And if you like this, please hit the notification button and the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already, because that helps the channel to grow. It helps to get it out there. And then also share it if you feel that it might be helpful to someone you know, someone who maybe is going through a little bit of a dark night, someone who can't see the wood for the trees. It may help them to just get a little bit of clarity. Thank you so much for listening, for tuning in, and for your support, and all the best for the next new moon. Just remember to come back to presence, to come back to the breath, to come back to the heart, out the head, in the heart, as many times as you need to in one given day. And when you do that, see if you can connect with your breath and open. Concentrate on opening rather than closing and resisting. And you'll see what a difference it makes to your life. Thanks for listening. Lots of love.